Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live panel discussion on a Friday, January 23rd, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and I've got my co-host live in studio. It's such a pleasure, although she's trying to suppress her laughter for some reason, and that would be Alexa Lavoie. How are you doing there, Alexa?
I'm good. And
Okay.
you?
I'm doing okay. Well, I know you're struggling with some sinus condition, which is why we're keeping the COVID 2-meter rule in effect. Well,
Yep.
1 meter, would you believe? And our guests today, well, we have from Medicine Hat, Alberta, the Freedom Convoy leader. That would be Tamara Lich. How you doing there, Tamara?
I'm doing fantastic, David. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I assume you have permission from your parole officer to be on this live stream.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I actually don't need permission if I don't have to leave my home. And so coming at you live, like I said, from my basement.
Well, thank goodness for
My
that.
home prison.
And from Vancouver, British Columbia, we have Rod Giltaca, CEO of the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights. How are you doing today, Rod?
I'm doing well, David. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you as always. And it's good we have you. And by the way, Alexa, did you want to explain to the audience how they can participate before we get into our news items?
Yes, so you can actually follow us on YouTube, Rumble, as well. I think we are live streaming on, I don't know, now are we live streaming on other platforms than Rumble and YouTube?
Those are the two I know.
Okay, but if you want, you can actually support our independent journalism and make sure that Rebel News keep the light on. And you can send us super chat asking us some question, or if you want just to interact with us, send us a super chat with. It needs to be a minimum of $5 to have your comment being shared with our host. You can send question to Tamara or David or me or everybody. So I invite you to participate, and thank you for tuning in.
Fantastic. And without further ado, let's get to the gun control issue. We get daily developments now. And Rod, I think we should start with you. You have forgotten more about firearms than I'm ever going to learn. Although I got to tell you, there was somebody who was very close to me. I'm not going to name her in case, people at the government of Canada are listening and making notes. She is in a distressed position. She does not know what to do because some of the guns she legally acquired are now either restricted or prohibited, and she doesn't know whether to comply or hope that this whole thing is going to collapse. But Rod, I see that the government of Canada is encouraging Alberta and Saskatchewan to provide their residents with an option of seeking compensation, but I see you put out a posting that the Liberals are planning on compensating owners for, am I reading this right, Rod? For 1% of the total number of firearms in circulation. So, two-part question, Rod. What's going on? And what would you say? What would you advise people like my friend, a legal gun owner, what to do in terms of compliance?
Well, I think everyone's got to make their own decision, but the factors that you require to make a decision for yourself in this whole thing is the federal government has opened up this portal, and this is the compensation program, and that portal's open for about 2 months. You won't know if you're getting paid or not until you tell the government everything that you have. Even when that portal closes and the compensation program itself is over, you're still protected. There's an amnesty that allows you to possess these previously restricted and non-restricted firearms that are now prohibited through to October the 30th. So you are not facing any criminal liability until October 30th. So let's say you miss this deadline of, March 31st, when the portal closes. You've just lost your opportunity to get into the Hunger Games of gun owners to try to get paid, but you're not running afoul of the law. And then the other part you asked about is this 1% thing.
Yes.
I put sufficient effort into figuring out how many of these now prohibited firearms used to be non-restricted before 2020. And we've come up with a manageable number of around 2 million or over 2 million firearms in circulation. And it's actually fairly easy math. And the government knows, they're just not saying. Now they've come out and they said they're going to pay for 152,000 firearms, including all the restricteds, which are 126,000 firearms. So for the firearms that are now prohibited that used to be non-restricted, which we think there's around 2 million in circulation, they're going to pay for 26,000 of them, right? So 152 minus 126 is 26,000 left. And then in the press conference, Gary lowered that expectation down to around 138,000 in total. So if everyone participated, and that's, I mean, I want to be fair, right? If everyone participated, if every now prohibited firearm was handed in for destruction in a compensation program, they would pay for less than 1% of them. So it's a mess. I don't think they're really committed to this. They're just doing it because that's what Quebec expects.
It's unbelievable. And before I get to Tamara and Alexa, Rod, let me ask you this. Who is going to do the government's dirty work, i.e. the door-to-door collection? Not a day, it seems, goes by without a major police service saying, we're not going to do this. So how does this even work?
Well, this is the Fed's plan. I'm not privy to any of their internal conversations, but if you look at someone's actions, you can sometimes figure out what their plan is. Their plan is to farm Quebec for votes with this program. They're opening up the portal for 2 months, which is nowhere near long enough. This thing should be open for a year, but that's okay. This is what they're doing. And for people to participate, they would want to have certainty around the fact that you're getting paid, right? They'd say, we need to get these dangerous assault weapons, as it were, assault style weapons, off the street. Anyone who participates in this program will get paid, and they're paid for the gun and the taxes they paid and whatever. Like they would make it fair. But they're not doing that, because what they're going to do is open the portal, slam it, pay a few people till their tiny budget is used up, and then they'll end the amnesty. People are like, well, they pushed the amnesty back. And I'm like, no, I don't think they're going to do it. They're just going to end it. And everyone that's stuck with these now, in the eyes of the law, machine guns, they're just going to sit on them for the rest of their lives, and dispose of them themselves, or get caught some years down the road. These people don't care about law-abiding Canadians and what would destroy their lives. And that's been shown to be readily apparent.
That's shocking. And Tamara, let's go to you. Is this all about politics? The way I look at the gun control issue, it's kind of like country mouse, city mouse. You know, a lot of urbanites, they're not part of the gun culture. But when you go out to rural Canada, when you go out to native reserves, for example, quite a different story. So is this the Liberals gambling on this being a political winner, this egregious gun grab by those in urbanized cities that don't have anything to do with guns and don't even understand the gun issue?
Well, I think so. And I think this is just more performative nonsense by the Liberal government. And you just said it, and I think I've said it on this show before. Two of my daughters live in rural Manitoba. And so, I mean, she needs to have access to firearms. There's cougars, there's bears, there's tons of wildlife around there. And she's out there, a lot on her own. So if you're looking at gun legislation, you can't really, it's different than, say, downtown Toronto. And so, I mean, that's never taken into consideration. It seems like they just want a one size fits all. Number two, I mean, it's embarrassing watching Gary try to explain any of this. He knows less about firearms than I do. And I actually did take my safety course, my gun safety course, in October of 2021. And shortly after, moved back to Medicine Hat. And then, of course, January of 2022. So by the time that was all over, I didn't even send in my paperwork because I didn't think there was any way that they were going to, allow me a license to purchase a weapon. But I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen and we've come to know from this government especially is that they will never admit when they're wrong, even when it's basically slapping them in the face, and they just continue to dig their heels in. And again, I'll just reiterate, this is just performative nonsense.
It's unbelievable. And Alexa, Rod said something very interesting, the idea that this legislation is all about Quebec appeasement. You're from Quebec, of course. There's that. But beyond that, we know, I bet you even Public Safety Minister Gary knows that stealing, confiscating, compensating, whatever you want to use, the firearms from law-abiding Canadian citizens is not going to have a tinker's dam worth of movement in terms of criminals, because shockers, criminals tend not to obey the law in the first place. So I just think this is so much political theater, and the end result is just misery to law-abiding Canadian citizens who like guns.
Yeah, and small rectification. This is Police se souvient. It's mainly what happened at the Polytechnic. So it's the regroupment of people who are pressuring the government to remove all the guns. And obviously, Quebec doesn't have really a gun culture. It's not a thing. And it's probably why everybody in Quebec is just like, you can remove it because we don't really use it anyway. It's only people who are going to hunt. But I have a question for Rod. You mentioned 2 million of guns approximately that are in circulation, but this is legal or illegal guns, or
Well,
altogether?
these were previously non-restricted, so hunting firearms for a hunting or sporting purpose, right? Not registered, and there's a lot of them. And the interesting part of this is that there is a government agency that knows exactly how many guns are in circulation. It's Global Affairs Canada. Mm-hmm. Because they've been keeping track since just after 9/11, since 2002, of every single make, model, serial number of every gun that is legally imported into Canada. So I can imagine that maybe half of these records maybe they're written or something. Maybe that's why there's this, gap here where they say they don't know. But they should know, and if they could actually dig into this and find out. So it's kind of interesting that you have the government just like, oh, we don't know. Nobody knows how many guns, will allow for, 152,000 in total, knowing full well, like just AR-15s, which very few people own. There's 90,000 just under 90,000 AR-15s in Canada, much less every other gun that's being used for hunting and recreational shooting. So I don't know. I would have liked to see Global Affairs Canada step up, give us the real number, so that we can assess this program with some truth, because that's been hard to come by with Gary.
And what I understand is that the buyback program is only for legal guns.
That's another thing I've been saying in every interview that I did, since Saturday, which is criminals don't qualify for this program. Illegally held guns or illegally obtained guns do not qualify for this program. Only for licensed gun owners and legal guns. And what a mess.
It surely is. And, I remember it was some 20 years ago when Ezra was the publisher of Western Standard. I did a little story for him about a Toronto Police Service program called Gunplay No Way. And this just shows you how perverse the anti-gun rhetoric is. The idea was you go to a police station and you turn in your gun and you get a toy in return. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to add one detail there, Rod. The guns they were seeking to get off the streets were toy guns, right? So if you can explain the logic behind that, there's a steak dinner in it for you. So why don't we move on? We have a video of our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, saying that it's his mission to protect multiculturalism and minorities. Do I have that right? Let's check it out.
Values of inclusivity, fairness, solidarity, sustainability, and ambition. Canadians are inclusive. We know our country is stronger when everyone belongs, when newcomers are welcome, when minorities are protected, when Indigenous peoples are true partners. That commitment to inclusion was institutionalized, first in the Bill of Rights and then embedded in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It was manifest in our adoption of multiculturalism, first as policy and then as law. In the same spirit, the enshrinement into law of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples reflects our fundamental commitment to reconciliation and to respecting Indigenous peoples as equal partners in building our country together. Value.
Wow. Tamara, let's start with you. That's a little rich, hearing Prime Minister Carney talk about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Bill of Rights and bringing the Indigenous community into it. How did the Charter and the Bill of Rights work for you, Tamara? And you are Métis. Some 4 years ago, when you were having a peaceful protest in Ottawa, when Mr. Carney, if you look at the timeline, would have been an advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau at the time.
Yes, and he was very clearly advising for the takedown and to have us basically charged with sedition. If you saw
Yes.
the op-ed that he put in one of the mainstream newspapers,
The Globe and Mail.
I find it, it's pretty rich coming from this man, in my opinion. I'm still feeling very frustrated that it's been 7 days since the Federal Court of Appeals upheld the Mosley decision, and we have yet to hear a word from any of the Liberal government. We have yet to hear a word. Pierre Poilievre put out a statement, but it was the weakest thing. I mean, I think it said something to the effect of a Conservative government will never use, the Emergencies Act to silence Canadians. Well, I should hope no government in the future will, because 4 judges have agreed that it was illegal. So what are you going to do about it, Pierre? And so to listen to Mark Carney talk about respecting the Charter frustrates me to no end. Like I said, it's been 7 full days. This is a massive ruling from the Federal Court of Appeals. No mainstream media is asking any tough questions. Nothing much coming from the Conservative Party, and absolutely nothing coming from the Liberals. And don't forget, there's still 7 sitting MPs that were directly involved in that. And history would dictate that they should be resigning.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. Rod, what do you make of it? I mean, Carney went on, and maybe we have a clip later about this. He also did the de rigueur, diversity is our strength. I'm sorry, I'm going to take an unpopular position here. No, diversity is not our strength. Merit is our strength. And if the person of merit happens to be diverse, that's fantastic. But just because there's diversity, how does that equate with strength?
Well, it doesn't. Diversity can tend to be a pretty significant weakness, right? Unity is strength. When everyone is singing from the same song sheet, we're stronger. That's how militaries work, isn't it? Everybody gets the same gun and the same tactics and is led by a small group of people, and they do the same things together. So I don't know. I think maybe something that's missing in the historical context, right? Everyone likes to talk about multiculturalism, and it's interesting because I was born in Canada, more than 50 years, well, more than 50 years ago. And Canada was always multiracial. I mean, everyone had friends, David Dollywall and Jerry Wong, right? People used to come to Canada from everywhere. I mean, I'm the son of an immigrant myself. People used to come. Why? Because there was a better opportunity in Canada to make a life than there was where they were in the first place. And they wanted to take part in Canadian culture. So despite what Justin Trudeau would tell you, Canada had a phenomenal, in my opinion, probably the best culture in the world, because we had a really great balance. So I think that idea that everyone was welcome, which was how Canada has always been, was kind of weaponized against us in the idea of multiculturalism. Like having a multiracial society is very different than multiculturalism. And that's what's causing all the problems because, Trudeau did everything he could. In fact, even went as far as to say that our Canadian culture that we've had since Confederation is an unpleasant relic and needs to be eliminated. I can't remember the exact quote, but yeah, it's I think our empathy and our tolerance has been turned against us, and obviously that happened like 20 years ago. But yeah, that's the situation.
Those are great points, Rod, and I think it was Trudeau, the first, Pierre, in 1974 that brought in state-sanctioned official multiculturalism. And, Alexa, let me go to you. I think there was always an unspoken deal with multiculturalism. It's this: come from anywhere in the world, take advantage of the Canadian dream, take advantage of all our social welfare programs. Just one thing we want from you. If you have age-old grievances and hatreds and wars that go back, leave it there. come start afresh. But what have we seen the last 2 years in our Dominion? Certainly in Toronto, certainly in Montreal, we have seen these pro-Hamas demonstrations, chanting for genocide, displaying swastikas, cosplaying as Sinwar, the terrorist mastermind of October 7th, 2023. I would say, based on that evidence, state-sanctioned multiculturalism has been a complete failure.
You know, it's been a time where immigration was actually great. It was working well. People were coming here. They were integrating, and we had no problem. We were there. We accept them with open arm. But under Trudeau II, Mr. Justin Trudeau, it's that this massive immigration, now we talk about illegal immigration, fraud in the immigration system, people exploiting all kind of tactic to come here in Canada. And when they are facing justice, but there is a double standard. They have more rights than what Canadians have. So how can you protect Canadian and Canada if you can come from anywhere in the world? You can come here illegally or in a fraudulent way, and we are going to protect you harder than the Canadians who are living here, who came here legally. So you're not really protecting the country. You're not protecting our culture. You're not protecting anything. This, what he say, is going to destroy what Canada is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think as far as the Liberals are concerned, it is party over Canada. And I think the unspoken strategy, well, we go back to 2016. Remember Justin Trudeau giving that big middle finger to Trump, hashtag welcome to Canada. So no matter if you're an illegal alien or, as the Liberals call them, irregulars, I thought we called mismatched socks irregulars. But anyways, come on in, and here's the quid pro quo. Every 4 years, make sure you just put a check mark for Team Red. Vote the Liberals. We're the ones that brung you. Also, let's go to Carney. He has a incredible explanation about why Canada thrives. This was in, he was responding to Trump's claim that we only exist because of the U.S. I guess that's economically and from a military perspective. But let's see what the Prime Minister had to say, because I'm really confused. I don't get it. Let's roll it.
Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
You know, Tamara, I thought for a second I was watching an old ad for a certain Molson Brewery's beverage, but, and I'm not being funny here, that quote, which is, quote, Canada thrives because we are Canadian, end quote. What in blue hell does that mean?
I would like to know. I mean, this is just more word salad nonsense. You know, I listened to some of his speeches and bits of some of his speeches lately, and always, and it's literally word salad, just a bunch of virtue signaling, social justice words strung together that make no sense. What does that mean? The United States is our biggest trading partner. So in effect, they have kept us alive, you know. I don't understand. Honestly, the last 2 weeks in Canadian politics, I mean, my head is still spinning. We've just signed a partnership deal with China. Then he flew off to Qatar, and I was wondering if he was just going to make a short pit stop in North Korea on his way back. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around it, to be honest.
Rod, let me ask you the same question. Canada thrives because we are Canadian. A, what does that mean? And B, I know it's very fashionable in certain circles to be anti-Trump and to embrace Trump derangement syndrome, but the president is right. I mean, we do depend on the U.S. I mean, as Tamara said, economically, it's a market 10 times the size of our country. And if you look at where our exports traditionally go, but militarily, this has been the reason we have been so delinquent on spending on our military. We know if Canada were ever to be invaded by anyone, who would come to our defense? Well, it'd be the United States of America. So what's your take on this word salad?
Well, obviously all these words are meaningless, right? And that's almost
Exactly.
the strategy, right? Just keep confusing the elbows up crowd. Probably some significant portion of them are pre-dementia anyway. And as long as you just, come across as if you're proud to be Canadian, which I guess going back maybe 15, 20, I don't know, maybe not even, certainly 11 years ago, I was certainly a lot more proud to be a Canadian. But one thing that has been an undercurrent in Canadian culture for a long time is this anti-Americanism and this, understated Canadian exceptionalism. And all of it is made possible by the blanket of protection provided to us by the Americans for the last 40 years, where they spend a huge portion of their GDP on military strength, and we are in a position to not spend that, to cut down military spending, to shrink the military, because we know that we're a strategic liability for the United States, and they would not allow anyone else to invade this territory, whether or not they're helping us in the process. But I think the Liberals just took it to the next level. Of course, Donald Trump being there is an influence there. It's like, okay, well, obviously Trump is, Mussolini or Hitler. And then plus we're better than Americans anyway, right? And then that paves the way, interestingly enough, intellectually for people to be like, yeah, what do we need the states for? And it's like, start thinking before you talk. You need the states for your economy. You need the states for your military defense. You need the states for a lot of different things. And no partnership or collection of partnerships is going to replace that relationship. So I don't know. It's I think a lot of people need to wake up. I don't know how to do that really, but I think it's going to just require a lot of hardship. And I think those days are coming.
And Alexa,
well, and let's not forget that this prime minister. Oh, sorry, David.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's not forget that this prime minister didn't even live in Canada for the previous 10 years before he jet-setted back into Canada to become the prime minister. So what would he know about being Canadian? Not only that, I mean, you could probably count on two hands the amount of days that he's actually been in Canada since he was elected. I mean, he can't get out of here fast enough. So what would he know about being a Canadian is what I would like the answer to.
Yeah, great points. If memory serves, I think he still has ownership of 3 passports. So so much for wrapping himself in the maple leaf. But Alexa, what do you find more inexplicable, that Carney says something completely confusing or nonsensical as Canada thrives because we are Canadian, or the fact that he got a round of applause after saying that?
But as Tamara said, 75% of our exportation go to the U.S. And if ever we got invaded by another country and the U.S. say, no, we are not helping you, I always say we would just watch them taking over and say, hey, we don't have a gun. We don't have anything. Our military have blue hair and like they can be transgender and they can go and fight. We don't have the capacity to fight against invader. We don't have it. Our land is so big that we need the U.S. It's exactly what it's happening. Like without the United States, Canada would just disappear in a minute. Like this is the reality. We can't say that otherwise. It's important to mention that without the U.S., without the military, without the trade market, without there is so many. We share actually not only culture, because we share culture also with the U.S. Mm-hmm. We share almost everything. So it's not 1-1. It's like we depend on the U.S.
And you're so right, Alexa, when it comes to wokeness in the military. Yeah, we don't have enough money for ammunition, but we've got tons of dough for tampons in the men's barracks. So it just shows you where our priorities lay. But I'll stay with you, Alexa, because what you're saying about our dependence on the U.S. military, it's not conjecture on your part. There are media reports that, here's one from The Independent, Canada prepping response to hypothetical U.S. military invasion for first time in a century, report says. That prepping, it's not going well. I understand we can last 2 days. I'm surprised it's not 2 hours, but what are your thoughts?
I think it just missed a sentence. How to fail as Canadian. That is just the part that is missing.
And Rod, let's go to you. I mean, firearms. You understand military might. I mean, the idea of a Canada-U.S. war. Well, I know things kind of went in our favor in 1812 when Canada wasn't even Canada yet, of course. But I wouldn't bet against the U.S. and that report suggesting we would have the resources to stave off invasion for 2 days. So kind of proves the point on our reliance on the USA, does it not?
Well, it's typical Canadian government doublespeak, right? Two logical, contrasting ideas and just collide them, and it just breaks people, right? So we wouldn't last 18 hours with the United States. They can roll right across the border. They don't have to use ships to go to the Gulf or anywhere else. They're just like, okay, well, what do we got in Washington State? Like that's literally what it would be like. And it's interesting. And the contrast that I'm talking about, or the contradiction, is on one hand, Canada's like willing to spend $1 billion and destroy national unity to disarm Canadians, right? To take all aimed to take my guns away. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, they're like, we're going to need the citizens to fight. And it's like, well, I don't know. I think I end up with a lot of discussions where the real debate is Mark Carney and the ruling class in Canada incredibly stupid or incredibly smart? And that actually is the root of all debate, because I don't think that Mark Carney's stupid. I think there's a lot more at play here. And he's just trying to soften up, break the population for whatever comes next, because people are confused. They're clapping. What makes us successful is we're Canadian. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking about that for years. It's like, well, it's nonsense, right? So they have brainwashed a very high percentage of the Canadian public, enough so that despite everything the Liberals have done to us over the last 10 years, we re-elected them, at least pretty close. So I don't know. It's anyone that thinks that we're standing up against the United States in a land war is delusional, although that's a very common intellectual position these days.
And can we just mention that the fact to publicize this kind of article in this current political climate is not going to help Canada at all to trade, to have a good relation with the US. Like, we literally publicized that we are looking into a possible fight against our countries. Yeah. So for me, it's like just publicizing this kind of article. Mm-hmm. It should never have happened.
Well, I think it's backfiring on the government. But, Tamara, to Rod's point, if there's ever a land war between Canada and the U.S., I'm going to make an assumption here. You correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe due to your conditions, you can't own firearms currently. So I don't know, as a plan B, do you have a slingshot or something?
Well, I mean, we couldn't even shoot down a balloon. Like, so how, I mean, we have a military, what are they going to do? Hurl foul language and feminine hygiene products? Like, I don't understand, where this is coming from. You're right. We have a badly under-resourced military. They can't get their own equipment. I mean, I think they can't even buy their own helmets. And it is concerning to see this sort of thing coming up in the media, because it's obviously being put there to trigger and to cause problems, as we've seen. And the entire Mark Carney election campaign was rage farming on TDS. So I mean, it's getting really well, it's almost getting hilarious watching this fake, like toughness that we're going to do this because we're Canadian. Like, what one time, if you're talking about the World War II veterans and the soldiers that fought in the First World Wars, I mean, there was a time that Canadian soldiers were something to be feared, but as Alexa said, now they all have painted fingernails and blue hair and septum rings. So, I mean, it's laughable.
And Tamara,
it's embarrassing. Actually, it's embarrassing.
And one of the things you said in terms of fighting back, because I'm a big pop culture nerd, it's that great scene in Aliens where they go into the alien hive and then it's recognized there's a nuclear reactor, so they can't have, active bullets and bombs flying around. So the sergeant tells the grunts to holster their weapons, and the line is, "Gee, Sarge, what are we supposed to use? Harsh language." So, similar
right,
to
exactly.
to us. Let's move on to our. I love this. I laugh every time I see this. The artificial intelligence minister, Evan Solomon, because you remember when he kicked off his campaign and he thought he had a photo of the Liberal bus, but it was a red bus with the R word on it. He didn't realize that the site had been hacked. Right. But anyways, he's still, do we have that, Olivia? If you guys don't remember what I'm speaking of, let's take a look at this. This is courtesy of the artificial intelligence minister, Evan Solomon. Yeah, I'm not going to say it out loud. And the fact that the World Economic Forum logo is on the bus too. And that was from the official Evan Solomon account. But never mind. Anyways, this genius is praising Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he's praising him for China. Check it out.
We are very excited that we're working together to build our plan on a safe, sovereign country. You saw the Prime Minister coming back from his remarkable trip in China, securing $7 billion of trade, really helping some of our key sectors. Obviously, talking about Canada's role in the world and the role that middle powers have and the control that we have over the things that we can control and bringing jobs at home here. And what we're really focused on today is building a safe, sovereign country, good jobs for Canadians, investing in those key sectors, not just the sectors of today, but obviously building a safe, sovereign, and secure, strong economy tomorrow. We are very...
Rod, can you believe your ears? I mean, suddenly China, which was an existential threat during the election campaign, is now a beloved ally and a future trade partner. This is a nation that steals our trademarks and technology. This is a nation that has kidnapped Canadian citizens, holding them for more than 1,000 days. This is a nation committing a genocide of the Uyghur people. But for the Liberals, never mind that. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, I guess. What do you make of Carney reaching out to China, knowing full well that this is not going to go down all that well at the White House?
Yeah, well, that sort of goes back to the my other thesis, right? Either Carney has gotten all this way throughout life and all the huge high-profile posts that he's had in his career, and somehow he's not smart enough to realize that the United States just walked into Venezuela, plucked the president and his wife out of a military base with 5,000 people there, evading all of the S-300 and S-400 anti-air systems that they have there. And they did it largely with helicopters, which are incredibly vulnerable aircraft. They never lost a single person. They never lost a single aircraft. And what was the justification? They represented a security threat in our hemisphere. And now he's got some pending deal with Greenland. So if you start looking at the map, how likely is Donald Trump and his administration to tolerate foreign actors and foreign influence right in the center of his sphere of influence, right? So I don't know. I'm not advancing any theories here. Well, I sort of am, but I'm not advancing any theories. But you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if Carney's actually Trump's man, and Trump's like, I need justification Get me some justification. I want everybody. I want the unions mad at the vehicle thing. I want security analysts mad. I want everybody mad because we need a reason to take a more direct approach to our affairs in Canada. Because, and sorry for capitalizing on the time, but if you think about it, all of his investments are in the United States. He's bet it all on America. His wife lives there. His kids live there. They go to school there. He moved to the Brookfield's headquarters to the United States, and now all of a sudden he's anti-U.S. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's paving the way for something. But I mean, I'm just a little person. I just, but that's what it looks like to me.
100%. I mean, I'll be dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, but I truly believe, Rod, to your point, it's actually Brookfield Asset Management running Canada right now, not the current Liberal government. I think the mindset is what's good for Brookfield is good for Canada, even if it is bad for Canada. But Tamara, let's focus on what AI Minister Solomon said, quote, remarkable trip in China, end quote. By my tally, $7 billion for China, zero protection for Canadian workers. What's the upside?
Right, exactly. Well, I look forward to the day that Mr. Evan Solomon can sit down and explain quantum computing to all of us. I'm sure he's very qualified for his position, the made-up position that they made to get him into cabinet. Absolutely. I mean, Carney came back there. I don't believe any of the tariffs off of the canola for the Saskatchewan farmers were lifted. I mean, I don't see too many wins here for Canada. I'm seeing a lot of wins for China. Definitely the Ontario auto sector. I mean, I can't believe Doug Ford must just be beside himself. What are they allowing in? 49,000 EVs, right? And especially in Canada when the market is dying. There is not a market for EVs here.
No, that's a great point.
One anyways.
And Alexa, this is a real point of friction. Granted, 49,000 vehicles, which will go up to 70,000 in the space of 5 years. That's really a drop in the bucket given current auto production in Canada. But you've got Premier Ford having a conniption about this. The auto companies, the auto parts makers, the unions, they all hate this idea of opening the door for Chinese EVs. Tell me, I know half of the total is going to be EVs priced under $35,000. Would you buy an EV made in China?
No, absolutely not. Anyway, I don't want EV, point. I think we will always need a gas car. But the thing is, come back to what Doug Ford said. Those are spy cars.
Yes.
Spy engine. We don't know. Do you remember when we actually heard that, the solar panel, they were a kill switch coming from China?
Oh, yes.
So can we know, if those cars will have those kill switch? If something happened, there is a war that is, I don't know, happening, if they cannot just do something with those cars. We don't know. We have no information. And I would say if I had the choice in between an IEV coming from US or China, I'm going to take the one from US because I trust them way better than in China. And by the way, why suddenly the human rights doesn't count anymore? Because while we are supporting countries where the rights of the citizen are being oppressed and they have actually no rights there. So why are we supporting business with some of the country where we actually do some virtue signaling over here saying that we need to protect the right of people, but we are going to give billions of dollars to countries that do literally the opposite?
Yeah, and on the topic of billions of dollars, the last couple of years, Ontario and the federal government have been investing tens of billions of dollars in battery plants in Ontario. I personally think there are going to be so many white elephants, but now you're opening the door to a cheaper competitor. And by the way, when Carney talked about China bringing jobs to Canada, Alexa, that is not the Chinese model. They make their products in China and export it. Secondly, as you said, you can't sell these in the US. 90% of autos made in Canada are exported to the US. So the idea, the fantasy that China would build a huge plant making EV cars solely for the Canadian market, not a chance.
Not a chance. And, you know, we really need to start asking ourselves, are we taking the right path? I think we actually are going on the wrong direction, and I think Canada have a dark future if we are just continuing on this path. Our partner is the US. We can actually obviously diversify our market to export our own product and make Canada rich again. I don't know if we ever were rich that much, but we need to be with the US and stop going to places like Qatar, China. Now, what will be the next one? Will be what? In Gaza?
Well, you know, Carney recognized the state of Palestine on the day before the potential trade deal. It's almost as though he's purposely trying to antagonize the president. Not a good strategy unless there's something behind the scenes we don't know. Hey, you know what, folks? We got to take a quick ad break, and let's do that, and we'll see you on the other side.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
And welcome back to the Rebel News live stream panel discussion. Alexa, during the break, I think we received the chat.
Yes, from Bradley Wilcox, 8604. $5. Thank you very much. Carney has destroyed everything. I'm from Alberta, and I think Alberta should separate.
Well, you know what? Let's go to the Albertan on the panel just to respond to that. Tamara, I mean, I lived for 2 years in Alberta, loved it there. I think Alberta is perhaps the most American of all the provinces. I get being a proud Canadian. I also get the frustration of living in Alberta, of having trillions with a T, trillions of dollars of mineral wealth trapped underground, and every federal election in the recent past, by the time they count the ballots at the Ontario-Manitoba border, it's already a Liberal government. It must be unbelievably frustrating. What is the mood in Alberta in terms of, if that was a referendum question this year or next, how does it go?
Well, I think we're seeing people coming out in droves in Alberta. We're seeing lineups at all these petition signings happening all across the province. Lineups right down the street, standing room only. People are arriving hours early, and I think they're excited. It almost, honestly, I mean, I haven't been to any of these events yet, but just watching them online, it almost feels a little bit like the Freedom Convoy. There's a lot of hope out here, that we are going to see some change. And I don't think it's that Albertans don't love Canada. It's just that we feel that Ottawa doesn't love us, doesn't respect us, has just been basically using us for payments to subsidize other parts of the country, while at the same time trying to, like you just said, shut down our industries. I mean, part of the reason that I ever became any type of activist, which I don't consider myself an activist, but it was because I was working in oil and gas. And when we saw Bill C-69 and Bill C-48 come down, that was very detrimental to our province. And so I think Albertans are hopeful. I think they're excited. I'm super excited to get out next week. We're having a petition signing here. Sheila's going to come down, so we're going to go cover that. So I'm really excited to see the numbers show up on Wednesday.
Should be interesting. Alexa, you're from a province that had 2 kicks at the can for separation. I think 81 and 95, if memory serves. Both went down to defeat. I would argue, Alexa, that separation in Alberta is more real than separation in Quebec. I say that because since 1995, the demographic changes in Quebec, you don't have that critical mass anymore to get off the federal government teat. So what say you? Is Alberta separation more real than Quebec separation?
Oh, 100%. Why I'm saying that is because the movement is lead by different entity. What I'm meaning by that is, like in Alberta, the movement is being led by the right, by conservative. And in Quebec, it was mainly led by leftists, center left. It was mainly about, nationalism and the fact that we are so different, our way of life is so different, and also to protect the French, to protect our culture that is way different than the rest of Canada. Obviously, we are from France, not from England. And the thing is, you need to be careful because, recently we actually heard that the former immigration minister at the time approved thousands of immigrant people to have access to permanent residency in order to vote in the referendum. That also played a big it played a lot in the final decision, probably. But you saw it was pretty tight. But at the moment, there is no desire in Quebec to separate. Why? Because economically, we are not doing well. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows that Quebec didn't extract or exploit our natural resources. At the moment, the party that is leading for the separation have no desire to build pipeline or to extract our natural resources. So how do you want to be a prosperous country without extracting and exploiting what you have will make your country rich? So at the end of the day, Quebecers see it. We see the debt at the federal level. We see our debt at the provincial level, and we are seeing that Quebec is pretty corrupt. Everybody can see it. When you go to Montreal, you just try to drive, and you will destroy your car in a minute because the pothole is not a pothole. It's just massively big. But Quebecers sees it, and they are scared also of having a government that are suppressing and violate our charter and right and freedom. We saw it during COVID. We saw what happened, and a lot of people are seeing it, and it's why there is no desire. And the fact also that we receive also lots of newcomers, I don't think it will be possible anymore to get a referendum that can win.
And Rod, you're in the province next door. I'm going to put you on the spot. Say you are living in Alberta, or you're living in Alberta rather, and there is a referendum. Which way do you vote? And I'm going to sweeten the pot. Under the new forged Albertan Constitution, there will be a U.S.-style Second Amendment. How do you vote, sir?
Well, even from where I am today, if there was a movement for Alberta, a legitimate movement for them to actually separate, I would seriously consider moving. And I was born here in the Lower Mainland of Vancouver, right? So I don't want to leave. But it's interesting. The idea of provinces separating from Canada is very similar to the conversation that we had about multiculturalism, right? These topics can be really polarizing, but if you're just honest and you're reasonable about your conversation, you can uncover a lot of problems, which would give you an opportunity to solve them. So the situation that Alberta is in right now is just, it isn't fair, and it's not working. It's certainly working for a handful of people in Ottawa and then whoever they're sprinkling around the resources to, but it's not working for the people that are actually working. So same thing in Quebec, same thing everywhere, right? So there's so many government policies, and I'm not saying Canada was ever perfect, but man, was it great. I mean, because I'm an adult, I remember, right? I've been working a long time, but the last 10 years has just decimated every aspect of this country. So I don't blame people for wanting to say, you know what, I don't see a future anymore. And that's reasonable. So I think the gateway to solving our problems is just to be honest about things, withstand words we don't like, withstand tone we don't like, and start looking at what's really not working and look to fix it. So good luck for Alberta. I'll be there in a heartbeat.
I remember too, Rod, and the memory only needs to go back 10 or 11 years. That's how quickly things have changed here. Gee, I wonder why. So I do remember, maybe there is some currency in the Quebec license plate slogan, right? That's
Je me souviens.
That means I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Maybe we need that for every Canadian province.
But the problem is, like, nobody is remembering anything, and the fact that nobody know actually what it means. I remember. No, nobody know. I know, but nobody know.
My take on that, Alexa.
What it mean? I remember.
It means when we were not under English rule. We were French, we were a French colony, we were under French rule, it was a French country, a French territory. I think it's an inherently political slogan brought in by separatists.
It is, actually. I remember that I'm born under the list, but I grew up under the roses, meaning roses in English, list, France.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful slogan at the end of the day to say, like, I remember my roots, where I'm come from, but that now I'm living under another government, another system, and but nobody is remembering that, and the fact that this is a huge problem with Quebecers. Leaders can do whatever they want, big scandal, and at the end of the day, 4 years after, they forgot everything.
I like La Belle Province better as your license plate slogan. Guys, we're running out of time, so why don't we throw to the cringe video, our daily cringe video of the day, and then we'll check out if we have any more super chats. This is a beauty. It's from Alberta's former health minister, Sarah Hoffman. Yikes, somebody buy this woman a calendar. Check it out.
How can we make sure that more people get vaccinated so they don't become worse? Like, we're looking at 20% of the population being vaccinated for the flu. That is possibly record low numbers. When people aren't vaccinated, they're more likely to have severe consequences from the flu and end up in emergency rooms. I'll say to all Albertans, get vaccinated for the flu. You can call your pharmacist, you can call your family doctor. I got in within minutes of saying I wanted the flu shot, and that gave me some more immunity and the ability to help offer more protection to the people I was around over the holiday season.
Being a health minister, the requirement should not be being healthy, at least at the start.
Yeah, I guess she missed the memo about Ozempic. Anyway, that was very mean.
Well,
of me.
I was going to say, I mean, in my previous life, I was a personal trainer and a fitness professional. I actually taught and certified personal trainers. And you know what else keeps you out of the emergency room? Not clogged arteries, not having your arteries clogged, and having a healthy diet and getting some exercise. So, there's bizarre.
But to Alexa's point, Tamara, like, practice what you preach. I mean, this is not the picture of health for me. And she's giving us medical advice. I'm not trying to be mean here, but if you're in the health field, don't tell me, show me.
Exactly.
Well, in the fitness profession, she would be considered morbidly obese.
Wow.
And that's not a criticism. That's science.
And we know how many health complications there are to morbid obesity. But, Rod, to change gears, I'm not exactly anti-vaccine, but I will say this. I didn't get jabbed during COVID. I am certainly anti-experimental vaccine. And I say this as a 1962 baby. That was when thalidomide was on the market. It was to combat morning sickness for pregnant women. My mother incredibly struggled with morning sickness, got the prescription filled, put that thalidomide prescription on her night table, and for whatever reason, I don't know, woman's intuition, a hunch, never took a single tablet. Those who don't know the thalidomide story, there were so many stillborn babies born with terrible deformities. For that reason, I don't put the words experimental and vaccine together in a sentence and think positively. And I think, unfortunately, what we saw with the COVID-19 jab, it's kind of tainted all vaccines, including the tried and true flu vaccine. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, again, this is another conversation which is very polarizing, because you have all this gaslighting and moral equivalencies. Like, you have to believe in vaccination on the government's terms, or somehow you're a terrible person and a threat to society. So if you're just reasonable in the approach, I was there through COVID. In fact, I was going through cancer treatment during COVID.
Oh.
I made my own decision that I was not going to take experimental vaccines, because they were experimental. That's demonstrably true. The problem was, and I'm in the gun lobby, right? Like, I see propaganda all the time, and the facts are, the vaccines that were rolled out were neither safe nor effective. I knew dozens of people, even just in my social circles, that were severely injured, and there's a handful of them that never recovered. Yes. Like, I saw it. So it's funny, because I do make the odd comment. It's obviously not my issue, but I do make the odd comment that if people are hesitant to take vaccines, which my kids were vaccinated, not for COVID, but what I mean, as children, whose fault is that? That's the fault of the government digging their heels in. And even though people are being injured, even though people's lives are being destroyed by the policies, even people who are losing relationships based on this, again, double speak and gaslighting, that's not the people's fault. That hesitation is not anyone's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the media's fault. It's the bureaucrats' fault. So right now, there are appeals to the population to get vaccinated, or people are reluctant for good reason. So, and there may be people that could be helped with a flu vaccine. I don't know. I haven't taken that either. But this whole responsibility for this train wreck that is the medical system right now, it's on their heads.
Yeah, the COVID years were like a nightmare. But I want to speak to Rod's point. Those advocating the COVID jab, as you know, Alexa, follow the science. Okay. It takes about 10 years to develop an effective vaccine. If you can get out the door in 5 years, that's considered lightning fast. Did anyone consider the science of a rushed vaccine that wasn't really tried and tested?
Well, first of all, I used to travel around the world. I've been traveling for 10 years before. And I can say I took all the vaccine that I needed to take in order to make sure that I'm not getting severely impacted by some of the diseases. But the thing is, I was not the first one to jump in the air with the parachute. I actually took the parachute that was tested tested for more than 10 years. So now you're asking me to jump off of a plane with a new parachute that was never tested before, and then everything will be fine and safe? I'm sorry, but I will decide to wait a little bit, that people are actually testing the parachute for me, and then I will think about it.
Yeah, and I got to say, guys, and maybe you've heard the same thing, not a week goes by, it seems to me, where I don't meet somebody that did get the COVID-19 vaccine, either by choice or by coercion. And wow, what a difference 4 or 5 years makes in terms of buyer's remorse. They say, wish we never did that. So sad. Alexa, do we have any, before we wrap up here, do we have any more super chats?
Yes, we have Joy, 348, $5. Thank you very much. How hard is it going to be to get parts and service for these EV from China?
That's a great question, because I know these are little insignificant details, but what's the dealership network going to be? I mean, are we just going to unload them off the shipping container? But that is definitely something I'd want to keep in mind of. So even if you're buying a bargain, sometimes not much of a bargain if it breaks down and you can't find parts and you have to wait for parts, and those parts are very expensive. What a nightmare. Another one I see.
Yeah, we have GP Alberta first. $50. Thank you. We know where the money's come from, Alberta. I don't think that most Canadians understand how dangerous this banker really is. I also don't think that many Canadians understand what is really going with the U.S. Pierre P., do you know who is that?
Poilievre?
Oh, Pierre Poilievre. Either is in the camp or he just knows that Canadians won't
understand it, perhaps?
Won't understand it.
Okay.
Alberta first. Sorry, me, when it's not written correctly, I have a hard time with it.
By the way, Tamara, what do you feel about that? Mark Carney being a banker, former governor, Bank of England, Bank of Canada. And I remember the saying, it's like money in the bank, meaning it's so safe. Not so much in this country, not when your supporters, hundreds of them, found their bank accounts frozen. That kind of taints, Carney economics to a certain degree, because he advocated for the use of the Emergencies Act, did he not?
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, we've got text messages with his name in them talking about it. So yeah, I get it. It's just performative. I mean, it's it's just so frustrating that he can get up here and say all this nonsense, as we've alluded to. But I mean, when it comes to meaningful things like the Federal Court of Appeals ruling, I mean, we just get crickets.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I'm sick and tired of being treated like children. And I think you guys were just sort of talking about this. It's like we just get patted on the head and told to run along, and then they just don't talk about things and hope that we'll forget it all. And quite sadly, in a lot of cases, that's exactly what happens.
Or in some cases, Tamara, even worse. I'm looking at that beautiful painting in the background. You getting arrested by the authorities. Believe me, I feel your pain. In 2025, I was arrested 5 times for practicing journalism. This is Banana Republic nonsense. I mean, I shouldn't say Banana Republic. We can't grow bananas in Canada. How about we call it Maple Syrup Republic? Does that work? But Rod, last word goes to you.
Okay, on which part? What?
Anything you want to discuss. How about this? Since we began with the firearms gun grab, I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball, because there's a lot of nervous, law-abiding gun owners out there. Is this thing ever going to fly? Are we ever going to get to a point where there are people going door to door, ding dong, not the Avon lady calling, but somebody from law enforcement or quasi-law enforcement, whoever it is, and confiscating guns? Or is this just a disaster that's going to play out? There's no there.
Yeah, well, that's actually something that we didn't dig down into when we were talking about this whole situation when we first started. I don't, the police aren't coming door to door. I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe it will happen in a targeted manner, like somebody like me. Absolutely. I would not put it past, well, I'm not even joking.
No.
I wouldn't put it past these people to dedicate a few people for a couple of weeks, figure out what they think I might have by going to retail stores and looking at the ledgers or looking at, any kind of records they can find. I could totally see that happening because they would love to make an example out of me. If you stick your head up and you say no for anything, ask Tamara, right? The system will turn its eye, like the eye of Sauron, right? In the Lord of the Rings, it'll turn its eye upon you and it'll use its resources to hurt you. Yeah. So I think for people like me, yeah, that could happen. But for the average gun owner, that's not going to happen. This is not something that they're interested in. They just want to get their vote farming in Quebec and the GTA and be done with it. And all the fallout for the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people that will be stuck with these firearms if they don't turn them in, that will destroy their lives if they're found out, they're just going to let that go for the next 50 years. They could care less. And that's I think that's one of the most important takeaways, is that the ruling class in Canada, they just don't care if your life is destroyed. And this is incredibly corrosive. So I don't know what the answer is short of an election and giving another party a chance and seeing if that'll make a difference. But let me leave you with this. Sorry to go on. But if we ended up with an election and we got a Pierre Poilievre government, which is the best option of all, right? If they didn't perform, I don't know that there would be a Canada after, because there's nowhere to run.
100%. But I do agree with your points. I think it's so much political kabuki theater to appease, especially Quebec and some other urban centers. And, not that I'm advising anyone, but if anyone can, and by the way, if anyone's watching, I don't own any guns, so don't bother pursuing a vendetta. But if I was a gun owner and somebody in law enforcement came to me and said, you have to surrender this, and this, you know what, officer? Funny you should mention that. I was on a canoe trip last June and it capsized, and I think they're at the bottom of Lake Wilcox. Have a nice day. Anyways, I don't know if that would work or not. Rod, where can our viewers find you?
Well, they can always check out the CCFR at ccfr.ca. We've got the biggest gun contest in the history of Canada running right now. We're giving away 100 guns, so you can go to the website and check that out.
What? That's legal?
That is legal, yeah. Well,
Gee, it's the Christmas miracle, giving a gun as a prize. Unbelievable. And Tamara, I know where we can all find you. You're with us now, aren't you? How's the job going so far?
You get it? Oh, just working me like a dog. It's going fantastic. Such a pleasure, and obviously an honor to work with you guys. So it's been busy. Really excited. It's going to be a fantastic year. And I mean, I think the one thing that we all have in common is we do enjoy poking the bear from time to time. So I think this is going to be a fantastic relationship.
Yeah, we do work hard here. Speaking of dogs, I think of the immortal line from Norm from Cheers when asked how he was doing, and it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear. Anyway, and of course, Alexa, did something get lost in the translation? Anything that you're working on that you want to flag? I know there's a super secret project coming up. I can't say anything more about that, but I can't wait to see it. Anything else?
I have a super chat from Randy from the PEG, 4994, $5. Thank you very much. Alexa, you're the bravest reporter on the streets. Thank you very much.
I'm calling BS on that. Not that you aren't the bravest reporter, but I saw you sending something on your phone just a minute ago.
Oh,
no,
that's not me. I didn't send that to myself.
No, I kid not. You, as you know, I've always said L is for Lavoie and L is for Lioness. So, guys, thank you so much. Stay warm wherever you are. I understand some horrific frigid weather is headed our way this weekend. And I want to thank all the viewers for tuning in. A special thank you to those who made those super chats. That's how we keep the lights on. We don't take any of Mark Carney's mainstream media journalism slush fund. In the meantime, have a great weekend. And as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Reality. We still live next door to the biggest economy and military the world has ever seen. We sell 20 times more to the U.S. than we do to China. 1 in 10 Canadian jobs rely directly or indirectly on trade with America. We owe it to those workers, our friends, family, and fellow Canadians to ensure those jobs don't go away. Growing and diversifying our economy is essential, as all political parties have been saying for decades. But we must also remember that our trade and security partnership with the U.S. is centuries old and will outlast one president. To quote the British Liberal Prime Minister, Lord Palmerston, "We have no eternal allies and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow." We should continue to work with allies within the U.S. that are outside the administration to minimize the damage until a larger relationship repair can be completed. And I restate once again my offer to the Prime Minister that Conservatives stand ready to help his government fight U.S. tariffs. But while we hope for the best, it would be naive to assume that things will go back to exactly what they were. Whether the next administration is Republican or Democrat, tariffs may be here for the foreseeable future. None of that, though, is an excuse for letting our guard down and repeating past mistakes by making Canada even more vulnerable to aggressive powers like the People's Republic of China, which the Prime Minister himself called our greatest threat only a few months ago.